Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners work session for Monday, March 6, 2023 at approximately 7:05 p.m. Mr. Berman?
Commissioner Gondek.
Present.
Commissioner Forresty Grubb.
Here.
Commissioner McCluskey.
Here.
Commissioner Cavender.
Here.
Commissioner Quinn.
Here.
Commissioner Hart.
Here.
Commissioner Wexler.
Here.
Commissioner Trombetta.
Here.
Commissioner Holmes.
Here. Chief, if you would lead the Pledge of Allegiance, and ladies and gentlemen, if everybody would remain standing after the pledge, I would appreciate that.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
1 year ago, we adopted a resolution here supporting the people of Ukraine in their efforts against tyranny and invasion. And I'm sad to say 1 year later, it would be appropriate for us to do it again. But I ask instead for everybody to have a moment of silence for everyone who has lost their lives in defending their country in Ukraine. Thank you. Our first item on our work session agenda tonight, we welcome Jean Angel to give an annual update from Discover Haverford. Welcome, John.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm one of the president. New to the role, but actually, I'm not new to Discover Haverford organizations. I'm part of the leadership team. Thank you. I was part of the leadership team of the Citizens Task Force for Commercial Revitalization about 15 years ago. Also was a co-founder of Haverford Partnership for Economic Development. Was the first vice president, served in that role for 5 years. Then had to step back for a while as work commitments got a little overwhelming. But then when I retired, came back to the board, resumed my role as vice president, and now as Mike Malik has had to step back for a number of commitments. He's still on the board, but I'm been just elected as a new president. I'd like to start by thanking you all for giving us the opportunity to speak here. Also like to thank you in general for the support that you've given us over the years. There's a lot that we've accomplished that just wouldn't have been possible without the township support, so thank you. Our Executive Director, Jean Angel, will be providing most of the update tonight, but I just wanted to step in for a few minutes and talk a little bit about our strategy and where we were going moving forward. And if I can, there we go. Just a brief word on our history. As I mentioned, our organization grew out of the Citizens Task Force for Commercial Revitalization, which was launched by the Civic Council in 2005 to address a number of concerns about the deteriorating state of our business districts, our older business districts. And so that got started in about 2005, worked for about 4 or 5 years to really identify strategies for revitalizing our business districts. And out of that grew the Haverford Partnership for Economic Development in late 2009. In 2015, we formally adopted or received our 501c3 nonprofit status, and then hired our executive director, Jean, in 2016. And in 2019, we opened our physical office down on Darby Road and have since hired a second and third part-time staff members. So we've been experiencing a lot of success and growth over the years. And since being established, we've worked on a number of programs and projects that have really been focused on beautification, streetscaping, facade improvements, small business support, business recruitment, and business district marketing. And just last year, we rebranded ourselves. We're still formally or legally Haverford Partnership for Economic Development, but now we do business as Discover Haverford. And this was really to acknowledge the fact that we've got an expanded role where not only are we working to revitalize the districts, but also to advertise our community as a great place to shop, dine, and obtain excellent services. This is our mission statement, and From the beginning, we've always been structured as a partnership between ourselves, the businesses, commercial property owners, residents, and the township. And although we've evolved as an organization, we've really stayed core to this mission. And that's to work with partnership with the stakeholders and promote economic growth throughout Haverford Township. And then also boost the local economy by supporting businesses, enhancing the image of our township, and revitalizing our business districts and public spaces. Now, one thing that we're doing differently over the last year or so, we've really been working a lot on identifying like a longer-term strategy, and particularly focusing on longer-term planning. And what we'd like to do is continue our overall mission that we've been engaged in for so many years, but also focus on succession planning, fundraising, and financial sustainability so that we continue our mission with funding and support from a broader range of sources than we do today. And then, this is still on, I won't go through these slides in detail, but just wanted to present them to highlight. You've got them in, I think, your folders. But really wanted to highlight that as part of our strategy, we will always continue to focus on how we support our stakeholders and partners, including the businesses, the township, and residents. So this is just a number of ways that we're supporting the businesses. In terms of the township government, we're doing a number of things to support you. And a couple of the key things here is just really working to help keep the property vacancies low, because as we keep those business vacancies low, that sustains the vitality of the community as well as provides increased tax revenue that then comes back to the township. And then, of course, in terms of supporting residents, we support residents through a number of different communications that we do. And then also we are often conducting surveys that then get the pulse of the community, and then we work to really deliver on some of the needs of the community, and really work to enhance the community engagement, the pride, and the overall quality of life in the township. So that's our overall strategy moving forward. And now I'll turn it over to Jean, who will come up and really talk about the projects in 2022-2023. Jean?
Thanks so much for this opportunity to present. I also wanted to thank each of you for your support over the years. Your financial support has been invaluable to our success, and I hope that you feel like that investment has been well spent. We've also been blessed with your involvement in our work. 4 of you have directly served on our board. All of you have been private donors at some point or other, and you've all been great about attending our annual meetings, our meet and greets, and our other events. This really means so much to me and to the board that you're involved with our activities. We're thankful, in addition, for Judy Trombetta, who's doing a great job as our board liaison, and are working with Dave and Amy, who've been great supporters to us and great to work with. As John said, one of our big changes in 2022 was the change of our name to from HPD to Discover Haverford. It's not only easier to say and remember, it's also a clear call to action. This was no doubt the most successful year that Discover Haverford has had. My staff is exceptional, and our board is more vibrant than it's ever been, and our partnership with the township is strong. It's been great to have been involved 18 years ago with the Task Force for Business Revitalization.
Gene, why don't you wait a second while we get to the bottom
You know what
of
it
this?
is?
Yeah.
Is it
It's
an alarm?
the back door to this room sets off an alarm. And apparently somebody got it.
Okay.
Right.
Somebody tried to steal my 16-year-old car.
It's not the fire alarm, just so everyone knows. The light over there would be flashing.
Bye, John. Good luck.
Oh, that worked.
Yeah, that's much better.
Or is it just?
Well,
or is
now
it
it's like a
just-
hearing test, because I can still just hear it. Yeah. Point which ear you hear it.
So it's been great to have been involved 18 years ago with the Task Force for Business Revitalization, and then to see not only how our organization has grown over the years, but also how the community's transformed. What we envisioned, a vibrant town with very few storefront vacancies, a wide range of businesses and community events, and a sense of pride, has become a reality. Next, I want to report about some of our ongoing projects and our new initiatives this year. Many of these projects were done in partnership and with support from the township, and we realized that they would not be accomplished without your help. So we continue to maintain the Discover Haverford website, which serves as a marketing tool to highlight the township as a shopping and dining destination. It's a clearinghouse of information for residents and businesses, and has a community calendar and our business recruitment materials. We've been trying different techniques to encourage residents to shop and dine local. It's one of the most important ways that we can support our businesses. We hosted our third annual Shop Small Saturday event the Saturday after Thanksgiving. In addition to publishing our restaurant guide, we continue to host our successful dining club. It's a great way to introduce residents to new restaurants and to bring in customers on a night which would traditionally be a slow one. We launched our Keep It Local gift card program in 2020. We have over 35 restaurants, retail, and service businesses now participating, and we've had over $35,000 in gift card sales. We're always looking for ways to shine a light on great businesses. We profile a new business in our newsletter each month, share business posts on social media, and we recognize exceptional businesses with our annual Awards of Excellence. For Women's History Month, we're highlighting women-owned businesses. In addition to our annual meeting, we also host meet and greet events and partner with the library on their annual business breakfast. These are a great way for businesses to meet our staff and our board, to network with each other, and to become part of the wider community. We've been revitalizing our older business districts through greening and beautification projects, improving walkability, and communicating an identity for each district. These are some of our gardens and planters which have transformed the look of our town. We continue to run the holiday decorating contest, which brightens the town up each December. And the new Mayflower project was a huge hit, and we have already started organizing this year's program. A few years ago, we designed new welcome signs for Westchester Pike as you enter the township from the east and the west, and there's a hanging sign below it that advertised community events. We also designed welcome signs for the municipal lots, and this year we had wayfinding signs installed. We have a few more to complete this year. We've been supported by Haverford Township for part of our budget since 2006, and we bring in additional funds from annual sponsorships and fundraising events. We're committed to increasing our fundraising to become more financially sustainable and to allow us to continue to grow. In order to accomplish this goal, we created some fundraising goals for 2022, and I wanted to report on our success. We've been working on increasing our number of annual sponsors and our total income. We increased the number of sponsors by 6% this past year, and our total income from annual sponsors by 50%. You can see by the chart that our numbers and sponsor levels have grown steadily over the years. So certainly more sponsors, but if you look at the chart, you can see that we've added, as we've added levels, people have moved up to higher levels, and so we're bringing in quite a lot more money for that reason. We also created 2 new fundraising events this year, and both exceeded our fundraising goals for first-time events. We named our 5K run after Andy Lewis as a way to honor his legacy in the township. The second annual Andy Lewis 5K run will be held on Sunday, April 23rd. You guys see Kevin up there? We hosted a second fundraising event, the Haverford Town Holiday Festival on Brookline Boulevard, which focused on Christmas, Hanukkah, and winter fun. Here's one of my favorite shots, showing the huge crowd and Tim Denny and his family leading the caroling. The event was a big success, both for Discover Haverford and for the township. Thanks to the township for the many ways you've used the ARPA funds to support businesses. Those include the Back to Business grants, grants for nonprofits, funds for the new snowflakes and flags for the light poles, and the planned streetscape improvements in Oakmont South. Funds that you allocated to Discover Haverford allows us to hire an additional part-time staff member for 2 years. ARPA funds were also used for the following projects. In May, we organized our second job fair in response to reports that businesses were having staff shortages. We outsourced the planters and watering to a local company, which was successful, while continuing to use Discover Haverford volunteers to add winter greens in November. We created a holiday buy one, get one promotion for our Keep It Local gift card program. And one of the projects that I was most pleased with was the matching facade grant program, which offered a dollar-for-dollar match up to $25,000 for businesses. It's been great to provide tangible support for so many businesses. We've had businesses receive grants for new signage, awnings, cleaning and painting, new planters, fencing, and more. Most of the projects were awarded in November but have not been completed yet. In total, we gave out grants to over 20 businesses, ranging from $1,000 to $25,000. Two that have not been completed yet are complete facade renovations, which should start this spring. The first is at Bakery House in Bryn Mawr, and I want to point out that across that whole block, all of the windows had kind of blocked up the arch of those windows, and they're going to replace those arches, and hopefully we can get other businesses to follow suit. And the second is Ivy Inn on Brookline Boulevard, which I think is going to be a huge impact. So they're completely redoing their front facade, and then you can see at the bottom there that's going to be a mural in the 3 panels on the parking lot side. There's all new windows. It's really, that's going to be an amazing impact. In 2023, we'll continue to organize our ongoing projects and programs to support businesses. New this year, we're hosting a monthly meet and greet happy hour, which will rotate to different businesses, restaurants, and bars. Our first was at Yard Pub, and March 9th, which is this Thursday, BHCU and the Manoa Shopping Center will host. Other businesses who plan to host include Plant Roots on April 4th, Hendren House on May 4th, and House Cup Cafe on June 8th. All commissioners and administrators are most welcome. With our encouragement, the township applied for and received a state grant for the first block of Darby in Oakmont South, and they really did a terrific job. The second block between Havertown Bike Shop and the paint store will be completed in 2023 using ARPA funds, hopefully in 23. Finally, we're very excited about a new food truck event that we're planning called the Haverford Festival. It'll be held on the upper municipal lot right out here on Friday night, June 9th. So thanks again for allowing us the time to present and for your support over the years. We hope that you're proud of what we would have accomplished together. Does anyone have any comments or questions for John and I about our work? Or
John, thank you for your service to Haverford. Do you have some idea of what percentage of businesses in Haverford belong to?
we have, I think it's maybe 110 or 120 businesses. If you count up all the businesses, it's probably 1,000 businesses. There's about 500 that I would say are like storefront businesses. So you have a lot of businesses in the medical offices and, you know, that they're behind the scenes.
Yeah, we have records of it that I've looked at, and we've got about between 900 and 1,000 businesses in the township, so we essentially have 10%.
So if we count up all the businesses that are like in the Manoa District, you know, County Line, Lancaster Avenue, Brookline, Darby, you know, all the ones where you call it like a street-facing business, there's like more like 500. And then we have, you know, 120 businesses that are sponsors at various levels. So the first level is $100. So we have certainly a number of them, all the way up to 1,000.
Any sense of why, I mean, it's a lot of businesses, but why more businesses don't?
Well, some businesses just don't seem to have an interest no matter what we've done. So like there are businesses that we have moved in and we've done new business article on them and promoted them on Facebook and then didn't join. And one of the things that we decided to do this year is to offer that for members who join. We give them a first year discount of 50%. So we're really trying to get them on board when they first move in. And one of the benefits is going to be, we will profile you in our newsletter. Because it seemed like about only half of them were joining, even after we had done that for them. So it is a surprise. There are businesses that lapse 1 year and come back. So if you really total up anybody who's ever sponsored us, it's probably significantly more, maybe 175. Yep. So we'll have a business who'll say, oh, I didn't realize I had left, you know, and then they'll come back the next year.
There's also a lot of businesses that, a very large proportion are service businesses, many of which are medical, dental, so they're less concerned about walkability. They're kind of more interested in just having patients that come to their office. So that's they're a little bit more difficult to, kind of bring in as sponsors.
But we actually have some of our bigger sponsors, our contractors, and that they don't really have a active storefront.
Right.
So we also feel like there's that tension of, we want to support them. They are $500, $1,000 sponsors, so we always try to find ways to support our service businesses too. That's why we had done the home show for a couple years, and we did a campaign in 2021 where every month was a different type of service, and we then did a little shout out to each of those members, but.
Okay, great, thank you.
Outside of, obviously, economic support, what, from the Board of Commissioners, could we do, in your opinion, to better support the business community in the township and better support your organization in its mission?
And certainly for our organization, I think, the commissioners obviously have been doing a great job just in terms of getting information out through newsletters about things that we're doing, fundraising events that we're having. Really, I think from a large standpoint, helping to advertise who we are and advertise our events and fundraisers.
Yeah, and that the ARPA funds have been very valuable for us, and I think there's potential for additional projects that we could do within the next few years. We've also talked as a board about some zoning things that could help businesses, parking, the parking requirements, for businesses, for example. That's something, we struggle with because businesses often want to come in, and even if they could get a variance, they have to pay quite a bit to get the variance, and then that's no guarantee. And so it feels a little bit business unfriendly. At least that's what we've heard.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that you guys are business friendly, but I think some of the regulations feel business unfriendly. And John did a little comparison of parking in different towns and kind of what are the requirements, for each type of business. And ours were much stricter, or somewhat stricter than some and much stricter than others. So that's the one thing. I mean, that's a long-term thing, but we really should be looking at that. We also need parking. So, the extent to which we can add another parking lot in Oakmont, for example, would be very valuable, whether that's something that, you would get a grant for, DCD money or ARPA funds, or you do long-term planning and try to get another lot there. I'm sure that would help you.
And then at a very high level, just, as I say, we really value the partnership, and we're constantly doing surveys and trying to understand the needs of the community. So as we understand those needs, we can bring them to, certainly the township and you, really kind of like partner and have an open dialogue about if there's certain issues or things that people see as issues, is there something we can do about it? What could we do about it, et cetera? And really just kind of work through that dialogue and partnership.
And certainly getting the word out. So I know you each have your own newsletters. If you can add our events to your newsletters or share on, and I know a number of you are good about sharing our events on Facebook. That's helpful.
Well, thank you for coming out and presenting, and also thank you for your work in the township.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things, if I may, just to emphasize here, is you have, am I correct in saying 3 part-time staff members? Part-time staff. And, I was writing down some of the events that you're doing. I mean, it's really incredible what you've been able to accomplish with 3 part-time staff members. And it really also is a nod to the number of volunteers that you've been able to bring in and ask them to continue to contribute between the beautification projects and the events and the programs you're doing. It's really incredible, so thank you.
Thank you.
That's 3 very passionate and very stretched part-time.
Yeah, and some amazing volunteers, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I have.
All right.
Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? On behalf of everybody, thank you both for
Thank
your
you.
work, for this extraordinary organization.
Okay, thank you.
Scott Selkowitz will be reporting on the results of the Senior Citizen Survey. Welcome. back, I should say.
May need a little assistance changing screens here. Sure. Right, thank you. We have planned that. Obviously, good evening, everybody. Obviously, given the time constraints, we're not going to go through this entire results of our senior citizen survey this evening, but you're going to get a taste of it. And more importantly, we're going to discuss what we're going to do with the results, how we're going to analyze it, and hopefully arrive at the various outcomes. As soon as I pick up my papers. But first, on behalf of the Senior Citizens Advisory Council, we want to thank the 365 people who responded to the survey. We initially thought we would get 200, maybe 250, but we had 365 respondents. And they took the time to offer more than 1,300 comments, suggestions, recommendations, all of which have been manually compiled and are included within the results, because a computer cannot do that. So every single result had to be looked at individually and compiled. To begin with, let's take a look at some of the key demographics. 74% of the total respondents who took the survey are between the ages of 65 and 74. We did have 65 individuals between the ages of 75 and 79, and then you can see the numbers after that. But the key demographic there is the 74% between the ages of 65 and 74. 92% of the total respondents are still living at home, very independently, and based on the data received, very active, very vibrant. And how long have you lived in Haverford Township? 59% of the total respondents have resided in Haverford Township for 35 plus years, and the subsection of that have been here for 45 plus years. The demographics tell us that the majority of the respondents are at the younger end of the senior age continuum. Data collected suggests a desire to age in place, depending on a township, to serve their needs as a 65-plus community. So what are the next steps? How are we going to collectively analyze and review the data? How are we going to prioritize? And how are we going to seek the various outcomes that we wish? So this is our senior survey rollout plan. A specific survey area will be addressed at each senior advisory council meeting. And of course, our agenda is posted online, and that topic area, of course, will be on the agenda. The areas that were covered are public safety and services, utilization of township facilities and programs, correct, library, utilization of services offered by private agencies, the evening school, other agencies that offer senior services and so forth, volunteerism and civic engagement, community information, community bulletin board. So as we begin to address each of these areas at our meetings, we are then going to extend invitations to the appropriate representatives from various departments and entities to participate at those meetings. So for example, when we discuss public safety and public works, we will have invitations to public safety, public works, to join us for that particular session to participate in the discussion of the items for that evening. When it comes time to talk about the CREC, we will have representation from the administration as well as the board. Same thing with the library, administration and the board. When we get into like volunteerism, there are some agencies and some groups out there that can perhaps assist us as well they will be invited. But the bottom line is that we'll have representation at those meetings dealing with their areas within the township or outside the township that can help us analyze and deal with the data. We're going to skip over to the next one, nonlinear approach, because I'm going to give you an example of that in a little bit. But what are we trying to accomplish? When we devote a session to a topic, we bring people in, what are we trying to do? Well, first of all, we're not going to be able to accomplish everything that's being recommended. And I want to go on record tonight that the Senior Citizens Advisory Council has nothing to do with school taxes, and we cannot do anything regarding school taxes. Okay, so that's obviously an example.
Nor can we.
Yeah. That was at the top of the list of people's concerns, but obviously that's an example of something we cannot do. Then there are some other things, and I'll have an example of that tonight as well. It's going to take a little bit more time to review because it may impact a department's or program's budget. It may have an impact on staffing. It may have an impact on program development, and it may require more than one discussion or discussions back within our department's agency, entity, and so forth. But what we want to do, once we have set those priorities aside, is we want to identify areas where we can achieve more immediate tangible results. There are things that we will be able to do now to meet the recommendations, the suggestions, and so forth, without any implications on people's budgets, human resources, and so forth. And I have two examples. As you recall, last year we had the senior open house here, which was very successful. This year we're planning a series of coffee houses here that will be smaller groups with refreshments that are going to deal with topics emerging from the survey. It could be outcomes, it could be new programs, it could be new resources. But one of the coffee houses we're going to devote to Volunteer Expo, because the data we've collected shows that there are seniors who want to volunteer, and we have data that shows that people want to volunteer, but they don't know what they want to volunteer for. And we know that we have agencies and entities that need volunteers. So for that coffee house, we want to bring folks together. That's something that's already in the planning pipeline. We can do that now. Second has to do with communications. Thanks to the IT department, on the website, there's a tab, Information for Seniors. Well, they've really reworked that section. And the Senior Citizens Advisory Council now wants to use that tab, Information for Seniors, as our primary vehicle for communicating with the seniors in this township. So as outcomes emerge, resources emerge, solutions, ideas, the council is going to take more of a responsibility this year, working with Amy and her staff to get that information posted. What we ask of all of you is just to remind your constituents, they want information for seniors. Go onto the page, Information for Seniors, and we're going to make sure that there's a lot of information. It's going to turn, it's going to be current, and again, tied back into the survey. So we bring people together at meetings to discuss each one of these areas. We decide this is something we can't do, this is more long-term. This is something we can do now. But there's a couple different ways of analyzing the data. Going back to the approach, we're going to use a non-linear approach to analyzing the data. And let me give you an example. One of the questions on the survey is, do you actively seek out and engage in programs and services offered through the CREC? 72% said no. When we showed this at our council meeting, there was a collective, whoa, from the group. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody could predict that 72% would say, no, we don't actively seek out and engage in programs. If we used a pure linear approach, we would just focus on that number and say, oh, gee, if 72% of this group's not using it, then maybe we need to focus our efforts on younger people. That's a problem with surveys, and often that's a problem with polls, because you miss other information that may explain that 72%. So we're not going to do the linear approach. We're going to do the more all-inclusive approach to now go back and look at the data collected to say, how did we get at that 72%? Well, here are some of the responses. Offer programs at times when working seniors can attend. There was a number of comments saying, I'm still working. I'm a senior, but I'm not retired yet. Be more sensitive to the generational differences within the senior age continuum. Design and offer more classes, seminars, lectures, programs, and activities of specific interest to seniors within the younger senior age range. Go back to our demographics, you saw that the majority of the people who took the survey are in the younger senior age range. Expand evening hours of operation. Open on Sundays. Open a walking track earlier in the day, 6 a.m. Overall, of the 1,337 suggestions, recommendations, and comments, over 300 regarding the creek and the walking trails. There's an interest, obviously. There is, people want to rely upon our existing services and resources as they age in place. So this is an example of, obviously, this is going to warrant some fairly significant discussion. And if we were to implement some of these, yes, there would be an impact on a budget, on the program, and on staffing. But that'll come into the classification of things to be continually discussed. Before I close, we had a section called What Do You Love About Haverford Township that makes it your 65-plus community. And I'm just going to read to you some of the top responses. Reputation, it has a reputation as a safe, clean, comfortable community. Peaceful, I feel safe here. Convenience, proximity to local stores, shopping, businesses, banks, pharmacies, and dining options. Reputation as a caring community with caring neighbors, the people. We love the library, the CREC, the evening school, the Y, Kelly Music. Walkability, which also explains the rather large number of recommendations and suggestions regarding public safety, condition of sidewalks, enforcement of traffic laws, so people aren't speeding through intersections. See, that ties together. We can age in place here. It's a small town feel. So we've used as our mantra, Haverford Township, your 65-plus community. Now it's, we have the responsibility of making that happen. Any questions, comments?
Thank you for that excellent information and presentation. Do we have access to the entire study?
Yes.
Great.
It's on your computer.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Selkowitz?
Just like to thank you for all the time that it took to compile all those comments.
It did take some time, but it was worth it.
Yeah, it's very interesting data. And I love the idea of the informational sessions for people where you have experts come in. That's a really great idea. Thank you for thinking of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda are any commissioner committee updates. Do any commissioner committees, would anybody like to report on it?
Mr. President, the Finance Committee met on February 27, 2023, to continue discussions over our upcoming bond discussion.
Commissioner McCluskey, do we have any, are we taking any action next week on the bond, or are we in between?
We're not. It's gonna be discussed at our work session in April, with the first vote in April and hopefully a second vote in May.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. McCluskey or any other committee updates? Hearing none, we'll move on to our police department. Chief, if you would come up and report on this month's activities.
Commissioners, the police report for February of 2023. Let me start off by echoing what this gentleman said about some of the biggest complaints we get and people's concerns are traffic in the township, which we address on a daily basis, and you all get the complaints as we do for various things. As a result of one of those things, Beaumont and Warrior has always been a big issue over there when we changed it to one way. That continued to be a problem. People were still coming up the wrong way on Warrior Road. So working with Commissioner Wexler, Public Works, PennDOT, and obviously the police department, we came up with a plan. We put pylons there so nobody could make a hard right turn to make it more difficult for them to come up. And we added another no right turn sign there because we were getting numerous complaints about the traffic trying to avoid that intersection. Hopefully that'll get fixed at some point also at Glendale and Beaumont. So it's one of the things that we worked on. Also, before I get into the actual report, Dave, myself, Joe, Hagan met with the executive board of the YMCA. We had a very, very frank and fruitful discussion. We shared a lot of things. They made some changes in our recommendations. They will continue to do so, and we will continue to have conversations with them. So we're happy with that discussion. That was last week, right, Dave? We met with them?
It was just the other day, yes.
Yeah, so things are moving forward with some of the issues that we have talked about privately, but and what was brought out here publicly also. So, and we'll probably have a report at some point once everything is done to address some of those concerns, but I won't get into detail now because we're still working on them. So, criminal arrests, we had 15 arrests, 1 juvenile arrest, 179 traffic citations, 8 non-traffic citations, 258 written warnings, and 490 parking tickets. We had a burglary at the Park U Restaurant, 2347 Haverford Road. One lone actor wearing a mask and reflective traffic vest smashed the front door, entered the business, and took the cash register with $140. We have some video of that, and the investigation is ongoing. 500 block of Cathmere Road, residents found the rear door open when they awoke at 6 a.m. They didn't discover items missing and called the police department. Victims learned their credit cards were used in a local Wawa and a business in Kensington, which they did not authorize. A suspect was captured on store footage here at the Wawa, or the Wawa here at Darby, Manoa. On 2/16, an officer observed a subject matching that description at the Penfield train station. Now, the officers were taking aggressive action and checking the trains, the ingoing and outgoing trains, and the platforms during the night because of the amount of cars were being entered in that neighborhood down there. So he was in possession of stolen property, cash, and drug paraphernalia, and he's a homeless person. He was charged with burglary. As a result of that, we had 13 thefts from autos. And of those, 500 block of Cathmere, another one at the 500 block of Cathmere, and which were solved as a result of that arrest, and also the 900 block of Old Manoa, where 3 cars were entered, and 1 vehicle had a large amount of cash in it, which was also recovered and given back to the owner. So all unlocked vehicles. So that they were solved, and that was good work and good police work and a result of the sergeants who assigned them and the officers who were working those overnight shifts. Another vehicle entered on the unit block of South Eagle. A vehicle was stolen in the unit block of South Eagle. It was recovered in Lower Providence Township, Montgomery County, as a result of the help of a stationary tag reader. An adult male and juvenile male were taken into custody after striking 2 police vehicles in that township. Bicycle thefts, we had 0 bicycle thefts, and then canine usage, 1254 Westchester Pike Giampinos. Business owner observed a male on his security camera. The canine did a sweep of the business with negative results. It later was determined it was an overnight contractor performing work. A burglary up to 2347 Haverford Road. The canine Bodie was deployed there. And then we did canine deployment in Merwood Park for an exterior narcotics sniff to recent suspicious incidents in that area. Lower Merion Police Department requested assistance for an article search at the St. Charles Seminary. Lower Merion Police stated at 3:30 hours on the 16th, there was a robbery attempt at an apartment complex across the street from the seminary. During the course of the incident, the victim's girlfriend and several suspects exchanged gunfire with each other. K-9 Axle was deployed for an article search in approximately 25 acres. During the search, K-9 Axle indicated several items of evidentiary value. 2 pairs of latex gloves, a white shirt, were all marked and later recovered by Lower Merion PD. And that's my report for the month of February, Commissioners.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Anybody have any questions for the chief before he sits down?
I do have a quick question. Thank you for the
I almost made
report.
a quick getaway today.
So we passed the ordinance, I think, last month on Panmure parking.
Yes.
And I just wanted to get, thank you all for that, and then ask for an update, and thank you for removing the signs and all of that.
Well, you know, after extensive discussions with the neighbors up here, we had a neighborhood meeting back, I think it was last summer or fall, and one of the problems we had was students parking in the neighborhood. So we looked at various ways that we could alleviate some of that. So after we did a little research, and we thought that removing the signs, no parking on both sides of the street on Panmure Road, would help that a great deal. So the signs were removed. It's still getting limited parking from the students. So hopefully, as the word gets out, they'll park there more and more and take away that parking that's parking in those neighborhoods. As you know, we have a big survey coming up to address all those concerns in the Brentford area. So we're working on that very soon, I think, so.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
very much.
Chief, I do have one quick question. I see here under incidences, there was a criminal mischief identified at the stadium, smoke damage on the side of the building.
Are you aware of that one? Okay.
I guess I'm just, my question with regards to this, like the smoke damage, did someone try to set something on fire or?
I don't have the answer. Fire companies weren't dispatched there for anything, so I'll find out for you before the meeting's over. Give you an answer. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chief. We will move on to the next part of next week's, of this meeting, which is consideration of various ordinances, resolutions, contracts, purchases, et cetera, that we will be doing at next week's meeting. First ordinance for consideration, it'll be a second reading, it's P2 of 2023, addressing traffic. I assume nobody has anything to say about that. We will also be considering for the second time renewal of the lease agreement for Hockeytown at the stadium. I trust that is equally uncontroversial. Those are the only two ordinances currently under consideration for next week. We will also be considering resolution number 2298 of 2023 as the economic recovery payment for seniors, widowers, and permanently disabled individuals. I know that Commissioner Trombetta would like to discuss this right now, and the resolution is in all of our packets.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, we did discuss this last month, but as a reiteration of what was discussed last month, I'm proposing to use up to $302,500 of Federal American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA funds, for a one-time $500 economic recovery payment to economically disadvantaged seniors ages 65 or older, widows or widowers ages 50 to 64, and permanently disabled residents between the ages of 18 and 64. These populations represent a group of Haverford Township residents who have been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic and the subsequent economic downturn that our country has faced. It's my belief that a $500 economic recovery payment has the potential of helping some of our most vulnerable residents pay for at least a month of groceries, the roof over their heads, or their other basic necessities. I think that's all I want to say, and leave it up to any questions or comments from my colleagues.
I think the resolution is well-intentioned, but I will most likely vote against it. I think that these funds should be used for more long-term projects for the township. We have a lot of needs, infrastructure needs, park improvements, stormwater improvement, and while COVID is still with us, we are past the pandemic. I mean, it will officially end soon. I'm not, a one-time payment, if this was something we were going to do every year, which I don't think that's the proposal, it might make more sense, but I just, it doesn't feel like something that these funds should be used for.
I'll throw in my concurrence. I mean, I think we all received, we had a 300-foot replacement, or roughly 300-foot replacement we have to do in our sanitary sewer system. That's going to cost us roughly $452,000. And we have money for infrastructure. I'd rather see and have discussed with Public Works a longer range plan to identify camera and put on a recurring project scheme what we have to replace before it breaks as we get there. And we've got an opportunity with these one-time funds. I also asked around at the county had about 4 times as much ARPA money as we do. If they want to do a program for seniors, I think that's probably an appropriate place to use their money, since they don't have to fix the roads and the sanitary sewers, and they've dumped the trash fees down on us, that they've got a lot more money, disposable income for these type of social programs where we have a heavy infrastructure debt that we have to carry. And I'd rather use the infrastructure money from ARPA to offset any tax increase we'd have to do as we start replacing sanitary and stormwater lines. I mean, 300 some feet it's about $1,284 a foot to replace a sanitary line on an emergency basis. If we had a program as we do with paving and everything, hopefully we could reduce that in a structured fashion and bidding, competitive bidding, rather than going through an emergency process. So I think the ARPA money is a great boon to us to help us facilitate the construction of our infrastructure and keep it maintained for the next 50 years. It's a one-time opportunity to do that. And then the county still has plenty of ARPA money available through and for COSA programs like that. So that's my feeling as well.
Thank you, Commissioners Wexler and Hart. Anybody else have anything to add?
Mr. President, I'd like just to remind the public and my colleagues that the township to date has spent $19.8 million, has received $19.8 million in ARPA funds that we are expected to, in some way, shape, or form, allocate by 2024. To date, we have spent, not to date, through 12/31/2022, the township has spent approximately $2.18 million, or 11%. I'm proposing to use $302,500, which is approximately 1.5%, to really help our most vulnerable residents in the township. I personally feel that this is a good use of the funds, and that considering that it's such a small portion of the funds, that we still have the opportunity to use the funds for other things such as streets or lights or parks or our library. So I think this is just one way that we can support our economy and our vulnerable populations. I would also just mention that the timing is right, from my opinion. During the pandemic, individuals and families relied on SNAP or food stamp benefits, and they saw an increase in benefits. Those benefits are ending in March. And it's an unfortunate timing because we're also seeing the cost of food and the cost of living increasing. So I just think the time is right to be able to support them in what I consider a meaningful way. I think that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you, Commissioner Trombetta. Anybody else have anything to offer?
Mr. President,
Yes, Commissioner Cavender.
I just wanted to add my thoughts on Commissioner Trombetta's proposal. I think I was going to say the same things that she did about the cost of living going up. I think especially when you consider the amount of money we're investing that's going to go straight into people's pockets, it's going to, I notice my grocery bills have gone up, just slowly they creep up. And that small amount of money, relatively speaking, can make a big difference to someone. So, and I think last time I checked, about 17% of our population were senior citizens. So I think this is a really wise investment. I do take what Commissioners Hart and Wexler said as important, and I think we should look for ways to invest in our infrastructure. But I also think the relative, money that we're spending and the impact that it can have on such a large proportion of our population is really important. So I thank Commissioner Trombetta for bringing this forward.
And you have to apply for this. It's just not just go into anybody, right? This is, like, there's there's guidelines for it and how it will be distributed, right?
Mr. President?
Yes.
Yes, to respond to that, we would be mirroring this off of the state's property tax rent rebate program. So the idea is that they would apply for property tax rent rebate program through the state. They have specific income limitations, namely that you have to make less than $35,000 approximately if you are a homeowner, or less than $15,000 if you are a renter. If you are approved through the state program, you would then submit an application to the township. In addition to an application, you would submit some kind of evidence, and there are several ways that you can do that, that would indicate that you have in fact been approved through the state.
Any other questions or comments? I will just add two things. One, the fact that we will be taking advantage of an evaluation that will all be done by the state does two things. One, it is a good way for us to already use an established practice to make sure that we're getting this into the right hands. And number two, it won't be adding to the burden of our own administrative staff to administer this program. I view our duty with ARPA funds is to try to do something, first of all, to honor the intent of the distribution of those funds in the first place, which in part is to try to respond to or negate the impact of COVID on people who are disproportionately affected by it. And I think this very specifically does that. And also to try to do things that are out of the ordinary of what our township, our municipal duties typically are. And I appreciate the opportunity we have to do, to ease some of the expense of our infrastructure repairs. But infrastructure repairs are simply our duty as a township, and simply our duty as citizens of a township to contribute toward and do. And I think of that as much more the everyday bread and butter business of a township. But I think the opportunity that these funds provide us are to do those things that are out of the ordinary. And that's why I would support this program. It's why I would support a number of the projects that we've listed in our budget, our projected budgets going forward. It's why I would also support using a not insignificant amount of ARPA funds to assist in the rehabilitation and renovation of our library. So my thoughts on this. Thank you all for yours, and Commissioner Trombetta for championing this resolution. Any other questions or comments on this topic?
Mr. President?
Yes, Commissioner Trombetta.
I have 2 points of clarification that I'd like to mention. One is in the actual on our agenda this evening. It says economic recovery payment for senior. Actually, I think it's okay. Widowers, I think includes widows and widower. Is that correct? I just want to make sure that we're encompassing everybody who, but I think widower should be
In case
sufficient.
people don't understand that, I think we're just saying anyone who's been widowed. Is that correct?
Yes, that is what I'd like to say. Just want to make that point of clarification. And then 2 is that I may look to add a little more language to our Exhibit A, which will specifically provide a rebuttal process. So if somebody feels that they were wrongly rejected from the program, that they will have an opportunity. And so I'd like to.
Like an appeal?
Yeah, yeah. So I'd like to be able to, I will share that with my colleagues in advance of our meeting on Monday next week, but I wanted to make mention that I am looking to add something that allows for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Trombetta. Anybody on this topic? Anybody else? Next thing for our consideration next week will be resolution number 2302 of 2023. That will be the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation's Delaware County paving project. Dave?
Commissioner, this allows the township to request PennDOT to incorporate adjustments of manholes and other work on township facilities that happen to be on state roads into their contract with their third party. Not sure we'll have it to them in time for this year's paving project, but our contract with PennDOT is expired, so we need to do this.
So this is just re-upping something we always do, or is this new project?
This would be, it's something that we should have been doing all along. I don't know when the last one was adopted by this board, but it's what's called a master casting agreement. And it allows, again, the township to identify manholes that need to be adjusted as part of PennDOT projects for any road resurfacing projects.
When you say adjusted, do you mean like actually moved, locations moved?
No, like raised, lowered, corrected, rebuilt if there's a problem with them.
Terrific. Anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Berman on this project? Next on our agenda next week will be resolution number 2303 of 2023, and that is the DCNR grant application for the Darby Creek Trail. Mr. Berman, what do you have to tell us about that?
Mr. Barrett is with us this evening. If you'd like to come forward to the microphone, that would be very helpful.
Mr. Barrett, welcome to the microphone. That was on purpose.
That's fine. I have a lot to say.
Nobody wanted to pick up your little aside.
That's right, that's right. Clever musings. So this is back in, if you remember in the fall, we applied for a DCNR grant for $500,000 for the Darby Creek Trail. That was a special grant round that DCNR did because they had additional funding to do that. We did not get that grant. In the interim, we got a $500,000 grant from Delaware County. So one of the reasons when we spoke to our DCNR rep about our grant and whether it was competitive was that you didn't have all the funding in place besides for the grant we were asking from DCNR. Now that funding is in place. So we're going to resubmit this grant with a couple of changes that the DCNR rep suggested we make. But the most significant one is that we have the balance of the funding that we would need to finish this project. So that grant is due on April 5th, and they'll make an announcement in the fall on awards for that grant.
What's the risk they're going to tell us, well, now you don't need it anymore?
No, I'm not going to tell you that. Any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Barrett?
We'll be asking for $500,000.
And will that, between the county and the DCNR, will that cover the whole cost of the?
Yeah, well, we had also gotten a grant from DVRPC back in '21 for an additional $300,000, and we had a $100,000 match for that. So the total amount will be
Is this trail going to be like paved with gold?
Well, cost of construction, as you all know, has gone up dramatically since COVID. And there's some stream bank restoration that's required in there. So, and there's also the work going on at Vermont and Glendale, which is impacting this project. Because we have to wait figure out what's happening at that intersection before we can put the trail through there. Because that's right up against where the trail is going to be.
So tell us a little more, I guess, about what the entire trail will look like.
Okay.
And if I'm hearing between all this $1.4 million trail actually is only costing the township approximately $100,000.
Yes, our contribution will be $100,000. So the trail right now goes from Murray Place to the bus yard, which is almost 1 mile. It's like 9/10 of a mile. This addition will be a little over 1/3 of a mile. But what this addition will do with the work that's going to be done at the Vermont and Glendale intersection is part of that work is to get pedestrian and bicycle access across that intersection. And right now it's a very dangerous intersection because there's no sidewalks And because of the nature of the 3 stop signs and people not sure how to navigate that intersection, we think this will open up the whole Pilgrim Garden section and the Hilltop section to get to the trail and access the trail of the length of it.
Perfect. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item, our next business for next week's meeting are the awards of contracts, and the police department will be presenting to us a contract for Crime Watch.
Yes.
Chief, would you like to come up here and tell us about the Crime Watch network deployment?
I'd be glad.
And remember the Bleeding Heart Liberal you're addressing right now, and assure me that this isn't Big Brother.
It is not Big Brother. So Crime Watch is a program that we would subscribe to through a contract for a 1-year contract to start with. What that does, it starts with a registry. The easiest way to explain it is a registry. Anybody that has a home camera can register with us. We can never see that camera unless we ask that person, can we view your video? We have to go to their house. We cannot access it from the police department. We would ask them, just as we do now. If we have a crime in an area, we have detectives and officers that will go up and down the neighborhood looking for home cameras, knock on their door and ask if they would share that video with us. 99% of the people, I'll say almost 100%, do look at it and do share it with us as needed. This would give us a way to make immediate notifications. And this goes back to January of this year. Monterey Park, California had a mass shooting out there. And it took the police department 5 hours to get the notification out for various reasons. It's not slamming the police department. It's just there was so much going on and no easy access to make notifications. So one of these things would allow us, any one of our commanders, myself, sergeants could make it a notification. So if there was a crime in progress where we want people to shelter in place, or we lock down schools for reasons, various reasons that the parents would get notified, we could also do an update notification as long as they're registered, which we could do very easily. Now, Dave has access to a system now, but it's cumbersome. So it's just not an easy access. We want to be able to make an immediate notification. So it has various other things we could do with it. And Joe, you want to touch on some of them?
One of the key features that we always find out is, especially at your community meeting, that not everybody in the township's getting notified when different incidents are taking place. What this does, this allows us to do one entry to hit every platform that we have in the township. Web pages, emails, social media, Twitter, like they would all be at one time, one message put in, and it's instantaneously goes out to all those platforms. So if you're signed up for our email list, if you're signed up, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, you can go to the township website. Everything will be hit at one time and within the speed of just typing out one message, instead of now we would have to go to each social media platform, email, website. We'd have to get a hold of the IT department to do the websites. So what this will allow us to do is to quickly get that message out. Surrounding agencies around here, Marple Township uses it now. It's also for notification of crime alerts that have occurred. We can put out, immediate, like we're looking for this individual immediately, so.
Does it, I think I remember during the discussion that once there's a change to the scenario, like if you actually have someone that you're looking for and then you find the person, you don't have to go back to every platform to revise it.
No.
It automatically pushes.
Yes, what this will do is if we have the incidents handled, it's under control, we don't have to go back and we just have to update it once and it'll hit all those platforms again saying it's been updated, and it'll remove the previous post that, in reference to if we were looking for somebody, now we would go and say this, person's been apprehended or the incident's over. So it's a very timely notification system for us that allows us to do one notification at one time.
And Commissioner, you'll remember this when we had the shooting, the homicide on Haverford Road at the apartments a few years back. It was summertime. We were somewhat short-staffed. We had, you know, supervisors on scene, myself was there, but I couldn't get the message out to anybody. I didn't have time. If something like this, or I could direct somebody else to get the message out, this is what's happening, you know, we have it under control, whatever was going on. So it's, in the age of instant notification, it's very, very important. You've heard people at your constituent meetings where, you know, my next door neighbor wasn't aware of it. If somebody isn't signed up for anything, they're not going to find out. We rely on neighbors to tell neighbors. So if you have a senior citizen who doesn't have one access or doesn't do any of this stuff, we would hope the neighbors would help them along with that. That's the only way it's, you know, people are friendly with neighbors in most neighborhoods, and they would convey that. But the secret is we have to get people signed up, and then we rely on you with our help to get that message out, to sign up for these systems, because it's a benefit for everyone. Now, the shore points, the shore communities use this extensively during storms, bad weather, any of that stuff to notify the people because of hurricanes, flooding, and it's very, very useful for what they use it for. And we obviously, we don't have the storm situation. I better keep my mouth shut. We'll have it tonight. So, yeah, but whatever could happen, we could get it out there quickly.
Chief, is there a certain level of citizen take-up that you need for this to be useful, or is this right out of the box a good thing to do?
Well, we can do this right out of the box because some people are already signed up for what you, Dave, you have more information on that, so I'll let you touch on what you have, how you get your message out now.
We have multiple contact lists that we use for emergencies. We use Everbridge through the county, and for routine messages, we'll use Constant Contact. So we have multiple email lists. I don't know that everybody who's on that list is going to want to sign up, but that gives us the ability to reach out to those folks and say, hey, we have this new platform that we'd like to use. If you'd like emergency information, it gives them the ability to go ahead and sign up.
The mapping of the cameras, that's just for your departments?
That's just for our,
That's not made public?
No, it's not. Absolutely not.
No, what that does, Commissioner, it allows us to immediately go onto a street and see, okay, instead of me or an officer walking down the street and having to go to each house and look to see if that camera's there, we'll be able to immediately pull up that map, we'll see it, and we can send an officer to that location.
And with a crime in progress, you know, we could make identification much, much quicker by going right to where we know cameras are and trying to access them through the owner of the cameras.
And then how do you envision, I mean, you talked a little bit about the notification and used the example of the shooting, and I would assume that would be a notification, but how would you determine sort of what level of crime is appropriate for notification and not? I assume we're not going to just be blasting out every
use it for everything
shoplifting that happens.
Exactly. No, none of that stuff at all. It's more of crimes in progress, serious natures where it would affect a neighborhood or affect an area. So you can pinpoint a certain area, say there's a water main break, or you have a power failure or things like that, and target one area very easily and send the message out just to that area.
And then this would be a sign up, as Mr. Berman said, this would be a sign up separate from what residents have signed up for.
Dave, I don't know if we can import that stuff, or it's basically the same thing.
I think we need to look closely about whether you can automatically enroll someone in a program like that. I think we need to look at that.
Whatever we have, we would then, use that as a backbone to contact to see if the person would be interested.
This would be to supplement what we already have. In other words, another channel of communication as opposed to replace or retire something that we're using already?
I think that we would probably use this. Dave would have access to it also for any message he would have to send out for the commissioners if need be.
Yeah.
So, so we would probably retire one of those things that you have.
Yeah, I mean, we would probably not use the Delco alerts any longer because that is a very cumbersome and slow system, and this one is much more advanced and much faster.
Dave sat on the presentation too, so we've been looking at this for a while. It's not the first crack at it.
Just to be clear, it's called Crime Watch, but does it also include something like a notification about, for example, if there's flooding on Westchester Pike, avoid Westchester Pike? So it would do that as well. So safety
Same thing.
is a better term than Crime Watch.
It's any safety message that we need to put out as a police department.
That's the product name, Crime Watch.
Got it. Thank you.
With regards to the cameras, so if this is just a registry of the existence of these cameras, if I'm understanding you correctly, this doesn't allow you to log into these cameras from, say, the police station. You would still have to physically go out to a residence and ask for them to show you the feed. This is just simply a kind of a map, basically.
Not Big Brother invading your household.
But it'll essentially save you time.
Yes.
There's a lot of time,
Yes.
yes.
So you won't have to investigate a street to see where the cameras are. You'll just
So
go
we
directly.
like you said, we look at the map, we see where the cameras are, and we can send people right to it, or even call if need be, depending on what's going on. Because it's another tool for detectives, especially in the long range, so.
And then I assume, I mean, I don't know the process you have internally, but I assume there will then be a policy in terms of who sends these.
That's correct, yes. It's not, it won't be open to anybody to send any message. We guard it very closely, or watch it very closely. I don't want to say guard, but we watch it very closely, just as we do now. If people continue to get messages, they start ignoring them. So they have to be pertinent to what's going on. So when you get it, it's like, oh, something's going on, I better listen, I better watch, or however it's coming across. That's like when you get a blast from breaking news, action news, boom, you want to look at it. So this would be the same thing, not just for anything coming down the line.
Chief, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jerry.
Do residents need to let you know they have a camera? I mean,
Yes, they would have to let us know, yes. And we would do a program to get it out there. Anyway, when you send your newsletters out, your emails, just to announce what we're doing, and we'll have a process to do that. That's why email or online.
So would they be downloading an app on their phone? Because I did look up Crime Watch and it was talking about some kind of an application. So what are the conduits of communication for anyone who would sign up for this?
Part of the nice part about the system right now is, yes, you can download an app, and it'll give you that notification on your phone immediately instead of having to go look up an email or Twitter or anything along those lines. One of the selling points too is also that anyone can communicate with us and remain anonymous, because just like with a lot of stuff, people don't want to put their names into association with something. If they know somebody did something, committed a crime, they know who that person is, that picture. What they'll do is, this will allow somebody to submit that information anonymously, and it can't be tracked, and we won't be able to go back and find it. But that app will allow you to, like, you'll get that notification on your phone.
But you don't need the app to get the message, I believe. Just the
No.
phone number is all you would need.
Yes.
So you do not have to download an app.
I would like to follow up on something that Commissioner Trombetta was saying. I'm a little uncomfortable with the name of this company in terms of it being not just for police alerts, for criminal activity, but emergency alerts. Because I could definitely see someone declining to sign up for something like this because of that name. So is there?
And what we're planning on doing if we do get this program, we're going to do an educational rollout. So we'll put the videos out there on social media just to make people aware this is a notification. It's not per se like crime, only. It's for any notifications and communications through the police department. This is going to be our line of communication, first line of communication from coming out officially from the police department.
But if I remember what Mr. Berman said earlier, there was talk about discontinuing perhaps another mechanism for communicating with residents?
We will still have access to that mechanism. That's a county-wide program, and we
You
use
mean
it.
the Delco dispatch?
The Delco dispatch.
Right.
I'm sorry, it is Delco Alert. Delco dispatch
Alert.
is something else.
Yeah,
Right.
forgive me, yes.
And I can address with the Delco Alert. That system is very timely to get a message out. It's not just like a simple type of quick message send out, excuse me, hit every platform. That is, you have to go in, create the message, select it, the list that you have to do, and it's very time consuming to get it out. It's not instantaneous, where this will allow us to get those instantaneous messages out. Please stay in your house because of whatever reason. If there's some type of gas leak that, we need you to get out, we do door-to-door knocking, but we would also send that message out to get, most people out, or stay in your house because of some other type of leak. So we'll be able to give us that instant notification where the Everbridge system from Delaware County is very time consuming to do. I'm trained on it, and I'll be honest with you, I hate it. You know, it just takes a lot of time to do.
I'm assuming, obviously, there's a fee to us, the township, for the service. But as far as the individual residents or businesses that want to sign up or download the app or anything like that, I'm assuming there's no fee for any of that?
No fee.
Yeah, just the township pays for the program, that's it.
Chief, maybe I'm just confused, but do I only sign up if I have cameras? Or since it's a notification, can I sign up for notification?
If you want us
only?
to know that you have cameras.
Okay,
And also
But if I don't have
resident can
cameras?
sign up, yes.
Anybody can sign
We're
up?
going to encourage every resident to
Okay.
sign up. That way they can get any notification through the township.
Gotcha.
That raises a question I had, which is, folks can choose how much or how little they want to participate in this event.
Okay, you don't have to tell us that you have cameras. It's up to you. But I think, honestly, our experience has been in the past few years, since there's so many home cameras and now people want to share that information. When we ask, we really have very, very little pushback, if any.
This will be good for when it snows and you can get all the cars off of the road and they don't have
We'll
to
have
get
the tow
towed.
truck there right after that, Connor, so you've seen it many times.
Well, all joking aside about Big Brother, Chief and Deputy Chief, it certainly sounds like a good program, and a lot of us have surrendered so much of our privacy and personal details to Syria and
And we understand that,
Alexis.
we surely do. I mean,
Yeah,
if I thought that we were invading somebody's privacy, we wouldn't be standing before you, advising you or asking you to buy this program. We're very secure in this, that this is you have to buy into it. We're not looking at your house, we're not doing anything like that at all. We want you, constituents, to be notified if something happens, and if you do have cameras, want to share them with us, we'll put them so we can access them. And that's exactly
And
where it
I
goes.
certainly see the value of collecting ahead of time the folks with cameras who are willing to and want to assist the police in resolving and dealing with crimes, because I've watched you guys do that. I've seen you guys go through the process of knocking door by door, and this sounds like an excellent idea. Any other questions or comments from?
I just wanted to note on the sales order that Crime Watch has a promotional package for getting the word out. I see here that we have opted out of doing that, which is, I think, probably right. But how do you plan, and forgive me if you already said this, but how do you plan on getting out the word? And should the township consider spending some money to notify the public about this? TBD, yeah. Which I assume means it's opted out because we're going to be approving
Figuring that should be determined.
Yeah,
It's to be determined. It's to
I
be
think
determined.
they were including some of the rollout with the packages in that package, helping us roll it out. And just, the township-wide, we'll use all our access to the township websites, all social media platforms, and also what the company's going to do is roll it out also.
I have
Verified.
one more question. I see that the yearly invoice is approximately $11,000. So is it likely that that cost will increase dramatically? Because often there's an introductory offer for these sorts of services, and then it goes up astronomically after the first couple of years, so I was
It's a
kind of
very
wondering
good
about that.
question. That does happen at times. But they're still pushing this product, and I think we'll be stable for at least 2 to 5 years, I would say. Costs go up with everything, and then when they sell the company to somebody else, and then what happens from there, so. If it gets out of control, we'll say, you know what, this is too much for us.
Actually, that raises a good question. Is this the only game in town?
This is the only one we have seen that has as much as what it offers. There are other ones out there. We based it on when we looked at it with a neighboring municipality. Marple uses it. And we looked at that, talked to the chief of police out there, and he uses it extensively for what he has to, what he and his needs. So I can't tell you, Commissioner, if there's companies that would do the same thing. We didn't do a lot of research on it. Like I said, they came to us last year, or Marple, when I spoke to the chief of Marple, that's when we found that, but we looked into it.
But we have every reason to believe that just as more people get into this business, competition is probably better for the consumer than
Absolutely,
it is
yep.
for the competitors. So
Yes, agreed.
this isn't so young in the product cycle like VCRs in 1975 that we can't already get, there aren't already potentially competing, more economically viable alternatives out there. So, all right, great. Terrific. Anything else from anybody?
Thank you for your
Yeah.
consideration.
A VCR is a video cassette recorder. It was sometime back in the 70s. Any other questions? Payphones were things you put a quarter in and you could call in a local area code. Area code were those 3 digits that started out numbers that most of us didn't need to use, because 7 numbers got you wherever you needed to go. We will also consider purchases next week. The Public Works Department will be purchasing 2 things: a diesel engine, the tree department bucket truck, as well as a camera truck for the sewer department. And we will be discussing an amended cost. Danny is not here. Dave, anything you want to tell us about on this?
The diesel engine for the bucket truck is a 2011 bucket truck, and it's a refurb. The engine that we currently have is having some serious issues, so we'll take it out and we'll purchase a refurbished engine, and it'll continue to operate. The camera truck, the board authorized that purchase at your last meeting, and we'll be back to you with an amended cost because it's my understanding that the cost that was presented was incorrect.
Well, I'd love to hear that it was incorrect and high.
I don't think that's going to be the case.
Oh, a guy can dream.
Thank you.
I think it's,
The stadium will also be doing two purchases: a dual zone split AC unit system, as well as a replacement compressor for chiller number 2. Brian, you know anything about that?
No, actually, Amy, was anything brought up at the meeting before I got there last month, or last week?
The AC unit is for the second floor where the meeting rooms are, and that was identified by user groups and staff that what was up there is not efficient or adequate. So we had this planned. So it will be a split unit. Dan Perry got some quotes from area HVAC companies, and they hope to have that in before the summer heat gets here.
Amy, do you know, we had a consultant give us a lot of recommendations on upgrades at the stadium.
This definitely will be an upgrade.
But do we maybe reach out to the consultant to see if this is what they would recommend that we?
We definitely can do that. I'm sure the bigger project that we could have done could have been a whole new duct system. We're going a little bit more simpler route, but we can definitely just reach out and consult with that report before we move forward.
I will say one thing, that at least as far as the chiller, the replacement compressors, that is a little bit more of a critical repair over there. My understanding is that the entire system is in need of assorted upgrades and repairs, and so I will say that's definitely something that if the current compressor that's being replaced, if another compressor goes down, we'll have a big problem over there.
Correct, and especially with the warmer weather coming, especially last year, we had 2 instances in the month of April and May where we had elevated temperatures. What's there right now would not be able to endure those high heats, so we need to get that changed out immediately.
it would be fog bowl all over again.
Any other questions or comments on the stadium purchase? Okay, next week also, we will be hosting our own Congresswoman, Mary Gay Scanlon, will be presenting to us gigantic golf tournament cardboard check for the $2 million grant for the renovation of our library. We are all very excited to host Congresswoman Scanlon and to accept with glee the check. We will be proclaiming a Women's History Month proclamation next week. We also need to finish appointments for our various committees, including the Civil Service Commission alternate, members of the Human Relations Commission, Ice Rink Advisory, the Shade Tree Commission, and Ward 6 Commissioner remains in Dutch for his
President,
failure to fill the Senior Advisory
While
Board.
we're going to proclaim Women's History Month next week, we should recognize some young women in the township. The Haverford Haverford girls basketball team had an undefeated regular season.
Really?
Won the Central League, had their first loss in the districts, in the final of the districts, went 27-1, and will be playing Friday night at the high school at 7 p.m. in the first round of the state. So I think we should definitely be recognizing their accomplishments this year.
Here, here, absolutely. Perhaps one or more representatives of the organization could come to next Monday's meeting. We will see about that. Thank you for that news, Commissioner Hart. That is everything for next week. Do any of my colleagues have anything else to add? John?
Commissioner Gondak, to answer your question for the damage on the side of the stadium, that was a small trash fire. The trash from the restaurant there, they extinguished the fire, so it was just some minimal smoke damage on the side of the building.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Was that fire set or was that an accident?
Accident. I was going to say lightning, but accident.
I'm not sure that joke would have gone over. Anyway, all right. Okay, well, if there's nothing else from anyone else on the board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
We are adjourned.